Hi, I'm Ben Ferguson, and welcome to your AMAC Weekly News. First up, violence has raged through cities over the July 4th weekend, resulting in the nationwide deaths of at least 6 children. All of these deaths, apart from 2, took place in liberal-led cities. So what is the reason some of these so-called leaders give for the uptick in violence in their cities? They're blaming it on COVID-19. More on that in just a moment. Up next, history continues to get destroyed as a Frederick Douglass statue was torn down over the weekend. Things are getting so bad that the hashtag #CancelHamilton has erupted on Twitter, referring to the film version of the Hamilton musical just released on Disney+. Find out why they're wanting to do it in just a moment. And finally, AMAC Action Senior Vice President Andy Mangione is here to discuss the nursing home deaths that have taken place thanks to liberal leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. Quick reminder, if you haven't shared this video, do so with your friends on social media. Your AMAC Weekly News starts right now. While a large portion of America celebrated the birthday of our great nation, an explosion of violence could be seen all over the country. Let me give you a brief idea of what took place. From Thursday at 6 p.m. through Sunday night, 87 people were shot in Chicago, and 17 of the victims have died, including a 7-year-old child. In New York City, at least 37 shooting incidents took place, affecting around 64 different victims. One of these NYC shootings was caught on camera as a man was shot dead while crossing the street, holding his 6-year-old daughter's hand. In Baltimore, at least 1 person is dead and 8 were injured over the holiday weekend as well. In Memphis, a woman was shot dead while watching fireworks Saturday night. And in Philadelphia, 4 people were shot overnight in 2 separate shootings on Saturday evening. In St. Louis, there was also a child that's in critical condition after being shot in the head. In Cleveland, an 8-year-old girl was injured after being shot in a vehicle Saturday night. That's right. This is just a basic overview of the extreme violence that took place over the July 4th weekend in this country. Now, when asked, what did the liberal mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, say about why there was a spike in violence over the weekend? She literally blamed it on COVID-19. You don't believe me? Well, take a look at this for yourself from CNN.
Compared to last year, shootings up 40%, homicides up more than 30%. So just point blank, what is happening right now?
All of these forces are coming together at the same time and making it very difficult. The ecosystem of public safety that isn't just law enforcement, but is local, community-based, and they too have really been hit hard by COVID and are now just kind of coming back online and getting their footing.
Just to put it in perspective of how bad things have gotten, as many of these leaders are attacking the police instead of the criminals, in New York and Chicago alone, nearly 150 people were shot in just one weekend. Now, it's important to remember just how restrictive the gun laws are in both New York City and Chicago on law-abiding citizens. In fact, this is the 3rd weekend in a row Chicago has seen a child fall victim to gun violence in that city. What else did this weekend prove? Well, after this weekend, we have legitimate proof that all Black Lives Matter groups are not, quote, peaceful. In fact, a Black Lives Matter encampment in Atlanta did this to an 8-year-old African-American girl. She was shot and killed by armed Black Lives Matter protesters in Atlanta in an encampment around that Wendy's store where they burned it to the ground after there was a man that stole a gun from the police, or a taser, and then decided to shoot at the police. Don't worry, that cop has been charged with a crime. Now remember, Atlanta is the place where just last month, the DA 1 week called tasers deadly weapons, and then 2 weeks later said they weren't deadly weapons, just to convict an officer, or try to convict that officer, of a felony murder charge. Now, this wasn't just some accidental gunfire that went off and randomly hit the child either. I want you to watch part of this CBS Atlanta report where they described what happened Sunday night near the Wendy's, where Rashard Brooks was shot and killed by police. Take a look.
There were at least a dozen shootings that happened across Atlanta last night, one including where a girl was shot and killed. Now, police responded to a shooting call around 9:50 last night where they say an 8-year-old girl was shot multiple times. The shooting happened on University Avenue, the same general area where Rayshard Brooks was killed back in June. Police say the girl was the passenger in a car that got off the interstate. The car was headed down University Avenue and was stopped by armed protesters near the intersection of University and Pryor Road. Now, at some point, police say an altercation broke out and then came the gunfire. That's when the child was shot.
Don't tell me that Black Lives Matter is peaceful anymore all over the country. Not all groups are peaceful. In fact, this Black Lives Matter group has now literally killed an African-American child. Meanwhile, some leaders are still trying to lead to stop the violence and hold these anarchists accountable. President Donald Trump is actually helping with the carnage. The president tweeted out on Sunday night in response to the violence, quote, "Chicago and New York City crime numbers are way up. 67 people shot in Chicago, 13 killed. Shootings up significantly in NYC, where people are demanding that New York Governor Cuomo and the New York mayor act now. Federal government ready, willing, and able to help if asked." Now, the president wants to help and has fought for Americans from the beginning. And it's time for us to show him the support that he deserves. And that's exactly what AMAC is here to do. Just when you think the new let's cancel everything culture in this country has gone far enough, they decide to take another 20 steps forward. What's interesting is how little these cancelers seem to know or care about history and what they're actually destroying or trying to cancel. This time, they've now decided that the abolitionist and a legend in Frederick Douglass is bad. They tore down his statue over the 4th of July holiday in Rochester, New York. Now, Rochester police are, quote, investigating the damage done to a statue of Douglass in Maplewood Park. Police say the statue was torn off its base and left about 50 feet from its pedestal. The damage to the statue was mostly on the bottom, and one of the fingers on the left hand, and the statue has been removed for repairs. Now, some people, like those who committed this crime, obviously didn't learn the history of Frederick Douglass. To them, it was just another evil statue in America that must be torn down. So here's a little history lesson for all these ignorant people that don't know who Frederick Douglass actually is. Douglass was born into slavery and then escaped slavery, fleeing to the North. He was a passionate abolitionist at home and abroad and befriended President Abraham Lincoln. For those still trying to deface the statue and memorials to Abraham Lincoln, it's also important to remember that he is the president who ended slavery in our country. President Trump called out those that did this on Twitter by tweeting out. The president linked to the news story and wrote, "This shows that these anarchists have no bounds." Yes, the president is correct. The extreme left, these anarchists, they know no bounds of what they will destroy, especially if it's connected to American history. Now, to be clear, it wasn't just Frederick Douglass who received the anarchy treatment over the past weekend, which was supposed to be about celebrating America. Christopher Columbus, you may have heard of him. Well, his statue was also torn down near Little Italy and thrown into the harbor in Baltimore. Take a look at this from CBS.
Well, protesters topple a statue of Christopher Columbus in Baltimore. This video from social media shows the Columbus statue in Little Italy being pulled from its base and then tossed into the harbor. Rachel Menitoff was at the scene last night. She has the details.
We're at Eastern Avenue and President Street, and you can see right here, this is the pedestal where the Christopher Columbus statue once stood. Videos on social media show demonstrators using a rope to topple the statue and threw portions of the statue into the harbor. So you can see some of the debris, the marble over here. And then if we walk down these steps, you can see the skid marks where the statue was taken into the harbor.
Now, the chickens are coming home to roost in some circumstances. I'll give you a perfect example. The once ultra-popular musical among the liberal elite left, Hamilton, is now being tossed into the garbage by the left. That's right. Hamilton became a Broadway hit after its debut in January 2015. People couldn't get tickets for weeks and months, and people would stand around the block just a chance of maybe getting a ticket to see the play. Well, this play portrayed America's founders, from George Washington to Thomas Jefferson, as great, brave, and courageous men. This was a show that even Barack Obama, as president, and Michelle Obama, as the first lady, famously went to see. And it was also used, the play, to raise campaign funds for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Now, on Saturday, the left turned. Hollywood actor, director Michael Rappaport tweeted out this 3-tweet thread to his 500,000 Twitter followers. Quote, has anyone else been forced to watch Hamilton movie by someone they love? Brutal. Is it time to discuss canceling Hamilton musical? Question mark. Celebrating a singing George Washington? Question mark. Cancel Hamilton. Singing slave owners? Question mark. Cancel Hamilton. That's right. The musical that was once the liberals' pride and joy. The musical that literally was used to raise money for Hillary Clinton to get to the White House. The musical that also chastised, just 10 days after the election, Vice President Mike Pence in the audience when he showed up to see the play, is now being canceled by the left. Now, these tweets by Rappaport went out less than a week after the film version of the play debuted on Disney+. Hey, Disney, why'd you put this up? Why aren't you canceling it? Now, we can no longer celebrate our nation because apparently everything about America, and including July 4th, is now a celebration. This is the left, not my words, white supremacy. Liberals are going to continue to cancel until there is no history left to remember. We cannot continue to allow this to happen, which is why AMAC stands by you as we battle to protect the memory of this country, this great nation, and our history. After the week of the 4th of July, a week where we're supposed to be celebrating this country, we saw an awful lot of violence. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And also, even bigger issue, and that is, are we going to hold these governors around the country accountable for going against guidance and putting COVID-19 patients into retirement facilities and nursing homes? And again, it costs people their lives. Joining me now to talk about an issue that AMAC is working tirelessly on right now is Andy Mangione. He's the Senior Vice President of AMAC Action. Andy, I appreciate you coming on to talk about these two very important issues. And I want to start with this one for people that are affected in a way that was shocking around the country. You had governors that mandated, that forced, and I want to be clear about that. They forced these retirement facilities, these nursing homes. They had no option but to take in patients that were COVID-19 positive. It cost people their lives. We've seen many people around the country talk about how their loved ones died, for example, because of this decision, and yet the media still is not holding them accountable. They're acting like this never really happened, yet AMAC is working very tough right now on this issue on Capitol Hill. Give us a quick update.
Happy to, Ben. AMAC's working with Steve Scalise. Congressman Steve Scalise. He's the minority whip and also the ranking member of the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus crisis to hold the governors of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and California accountable for their mandate, as you mentioned, to send COVID-19 contagious patients from hospitals to nursing homes, despite clear guidance not to do this from CMS. As a result, we have 40,000 nursing home deaths collectively in these states that may not have had to occur had these governors followed guidance from CMS.
You know, it's shocking when you see, and it affected a lot of people in New York, even those in the media. The main meteorologist for Fox News Channel lost both of her in-laws to COVID-19 because of this mandate. And she's asking for the accountability, yet many in the media still praising Governor Cuomo, saying he's done an amazing job, when the reality is he made direct decisions that cost people their lives. And even when people were yelling and screaming, stop doing it, they continued to do this all over the country.
Let me give you some perspective in New York specifically, Ben. 6,360 nursing home residents died, okay? That's more than 25% of the state's total COVID-19 deaths. No wonder that person at Fox wants answers.
Let's talk about the accountability aspect of this from Congress. What would this legislation do? How would it work? And how would it affect these states?
Well, right now, The ranking member Scalise wants answers, and the motivation behind this effort, he sent letters to these governors a few weeks ago asking answers, wanting to know what signs they used to base these decisions on. He wants to avoid this disastrous policy from occurring again should there be a resurgence in the coronavirus. AMAC members are fully engaged on this. Our members sent over 1,000 emails to the governors of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and California demanding accountability. Andrew Cuomo is closing in on 900 emails from AMAC members demanding accountability. And the governor of New Jersey received over 400 emails from AMAC members wanting answers to these questions. So we're going to start. Ranking member Scalise wants answers first to develop policy to ensure this doesn't happen again.
Andy, I know so many people, they're going to be watching this, are going to say, I want to send that email. How do they get more information, and what do they need to do to send this email with, and what is the request they're asking?
Yeah. Well, if we have their email address for AMAC members that live in those states, check their email box, because we sent this out about a week ago, and our members have responded tremendously, and they're still sending this in, even though the campaign itself is about a week old. It should be in their email box already, Ben, if we have their email address. And if we don't have their email address, call AMAC and give it to us, and we'll be happy to get you an email so they can participate in sending these emails to these governors.
Lastly, I want to switch gears for a moment, and it was something shocking. It was one of the most deadly, bloodiest 4th of Julys nationwide in many big cities, whether it be Atlanta or New York or San Francisco or L.A. Or Memphis or New Orleans or Little Rock. We saw crime rates on the 4th of July weekend that we've never seen before, records that have just been exploded over what they were before. And this is because the dehumanization and the lack of respect for law enforcement, the aspect that the police are the bad guys. And now we're seeing the actual bad guys using this to their advantage. They even attacked a district attorney in Memphis, Tennessee on the 4th of July in broad daylight, her home, using fireworks as weapons and burning her American flag and other American flags on her property in the middle of the day. You see this happening around the country. You see these crime rates. The president said, hey, I'm here to help. I'll help you with National Guard. Let me know what you need. And many of these governors, many of these mayors are refusing to work to restore law and order.
We're seeing a complete lack of leadership, and we're seeing the results of this leadership. That's one aspect of this. We're also seeing a demonization of police. And the bad guys, well, they know there's blood in the water, and they're going to attack, and they're going to be even more aggressive. This is a shame. There's also some politicization going on here too, Ben, where you see these mayors and governors realizing that if all these actions, as horrific and as how shocking as they are, lead to getting President Trump out of office, then so be it. This is unprecedented, and it's extremely sad.
Andy, I appreciate your time. It's something I know that AMAC is working hard on, protecting our police, making sure that they are not defunded, making sure that police departments have the resources they need, and we'll keep our members obviously updated on that. Thanks for joining us on AMAC Weekly News this week.
My pleasure, Ben. Thank you.
Lastly, as many of you know, there are many in social media that are trying to suppress conservative voices and shows like this from getting out. We ask you, please make sure that you follow and, most importantly, share this video with your family and your friends and on social media. Also, a quick reminder, if you haven't joined AMAC or renewed your membership, do it right now. Not only so you get to continue to receive the show, but also access to our incredible member benefits. You also get the AMAC magazine, and most importantly, AMAC represents you and more than 2 million other conservatives every single day. So make sure you join or renew and tell your friends about AMAC. I'm Ben Ferguson. I'll see you back next week for our next episode.